Delaware Climate Action Plan highlights rising heat, flooding, and health risks. Delaware's newly released 2025 Climate Action Plan marks a shift from long range climate ambition toward near term operational reality. While the state has maintained aggressive emissions targets, cutting greenhouse gases 50% by 2030 and reaching net zero by 2050, the updated plan places greater emphasis on managing risks that are already materializing across infrastructure, public health, and local economies. The plan is the first issued since passage of the Climate Change Solutions Act in 2023 and reflects an 18-month public engagement process involving more than 2,300 residents statewide. That input helps shape a framework that treats climate impacts less as future scenarios and more as ongoing stressors requiring coordinated action across agencies, utilities, transportation systems, and land use planning. From climate targets to physical reality, Delaware's exposure profile is becoming harder to ignore. Sea levels along the state's coast have risen more than 1 foot over the past century and are projected to rise another 1.2 to 1.5 feet by 2050. Average statewide temperatures are already roughly 3 degrees higher than historical baselines and could climb an additional 3 to 4 degrees by mid-century. At the same time, precipitation patterns are shifting toward more frequent extreme rainfall events, increasing flood risk in both coastal and inland communities. The 2025 plan explicitly links these trends to tangible system strain, overwhelmed stormwater infrastructure, heat-driven health risks in urban areas, and recurring flooding of coastal roadways. Rather than treating mitigation and adaptation as parallel tracks, the plan integrates emissions reduction with resilience investments, including land use decisions that affect long-term exposure. Infrastructure, energy costs, and public health intersect. Several state leaders framed climate change less as an environmental issue and more as a systems challenge. Transportation officials highlighted vulnerabilities in roads and transit assets, while energy and public advocacy voices emphasized the cost implications of rising heat and extreme weather. Higher temperatures drive increased air conditioning demand, raising utility costs and stressing power systems. More intense storms increase the likelihood of outages, compounding health and safety risks, particularly for older adults, outdoor workers, and households already facing affordability pressures. The plan positions energy efficiency, distributed solar, and community-scale investments as tools to address both emissions goals and cost control. This framing aligns with public sentiment. A 2025 statewide perceptions survey found that 79% of Delaware residents believe climate change is happening and view it as a serious threat, while 58% expect it to harm them personally. Notably, 2/3 of respondents believe the state can and should take more action, suggesting political space for infrastructure and resilience investments that may have faced resistance in prior cycles. Equity and land use move to the foreground. A notable evolution in the 2025 plan is its treatment of equity and land use as core climate variables rather than secondary considerations. Outreach to under-resourced communities shaped priorities around heat exposure, flooding, and energy affordability. Health advocates underscored climate change as a public health emergency, pointing to disproportionate impacts on children, older residents, agricultural workers, and people with chronic conditions. The plan also elevates the role of natural systems, wetlands, forests, and agricultural lands, as both carbon sinks and buffers against flooding and heat. Preservation and restoration are framed not just as conservation strategies, but as cost-effective resilience measures that protect infrastructure and communities simultaneously. A flexible framework, not a static playbook. State officials emphasize that the Climate Action Plan is designed to evolve. Actions will be revisited as climate science advances, technologies mature, and implementation lessons emerge. Formal updates are scheduled for 2027 and 2029, with the next full plan due in 2030. For regional operators, utilities, developers, and public sector partners, the takeaway is not a single policy mandate, but a clearer signal of where state priorities are converging. Resilience is becoming inseparable from emissions strategy, and climate impacts are increasingly treated as present-day operational risks rather than distant projections. You've been listening to Sustainability Soundbites by Environment and Energy Leader. For partnership opportunities, please reach out to our team.